It was lunchtime, and Blessing sat in Mrs. Akobundu's office, her fingers drumming lightly on the desk. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant, and the matron's cluttered workspace reflected the chaotic energy of the health center. The two women exchanged a knowing glance. What happened between Blessing and Chief Mboli had to remain a secret. Seb could never find out. Not yet. Mrs. Akobundu sighed heavily, rubbing her temples. That is all we need right now? Another predicament for our doctor? She was tired of cleaning up Blessing's messes. This one, though, was bound to be explosive. The doctor, a man who had given up everything for Blessing, would be devastated. The rumor had spread like wildfire through the health center corridors. Before Blessing had even arrived at Matron's office, one of the nurses had already spilled the story. Whispers filled the air. Blessing was traveling to London, and not with Seb. The matron frowned. The news has leaked. This means your life with Seb will never be the same again. Her disappointment was evident, but Blessing seemed unfazed. Instead, she leaned back, her expression unreadable. He's ancient history now, she said, her voice casual. I really don't care. God has changed my story. I will be in London in 2 weeks. Mrs. Akobundu clenched her fists. It wasn't just about Seb. It was about the integrity of the health center. Chief Mboli was the very man fighting to keep Seb there. And now, here was Blessing, ready to discard everything for a shot at luxury. What has Seb done to you? The matron demanded. He abandoned his family in London because of you. But Blessing only shrugged, her eyes flashing with determination. I'm bailing out. Nothing will stop me from going to London with Chief Mboli. Seb is clever, charming, but he doesn't understand. I want to arrive like Jacinta. Her voice carried the finality of a woman who had already made up her mind. The air in Matron Akobundu's office felt thick with tension. The matron folded her arms across her chest, staring at Blessing, who leaned back confidently in her chair. The young woman's face was alight with excitement, completely unfazed by the reality she was leaving behind. Blessing, I thought you were in love with him, the matron said, her voice laced with disappointment. Blessing let out a small chuckle, shaking her head. Ma, no be love, I go chop. Seb had his chance, and he blew it. Soon he will forget me, just like he forgot his wife. Look, matron, it's simple. I have upgraded, and now my bullion van cometh. The matron sighed. She had seen many women make this choice before, riding on the backs of powerful men to achieve their dreams. But Blessing spoke of it so shamelessly, as if it were a well-executed business strategy rather than a betrayal. As Blessing talked, the matron's thoughts drifted. She suddenly realized that she had probably been the fool all along. Women like Blessing knew how to get ahead, knew how to use men as stepping stones to a life of privilege. There were always women like her, ones who attached themselves to powerful men for access to luxury, promotions, designer clothes, flashy cars, and trips around the world. They rode on these men like Okada motorcycles, jumping off when they found a better ride. And when one woman dropped off, another was always waiting to take her place. The matron sighed again, thinking of herself. Maybe this was why she was still stuck at the health center. Maybe if she had played the game like Blessing, she would be running a major hospital in Igovia by now. Blessing leaned forward, a confident smile spreading across her face. I will resign from this job, matron. I will move out of Seb's house. I think he's not my type at all. She was glowing with excitement, basking in the idea of her new life. God has taken me to a place of favor and honor. I need to take my life to the next level. The matron studied her, still amazed by the sheer audacity of Blessing's ambition. There were no boundaries in her mind, only goals to be achieved. And Chief Mboli was her golden ticket. He had the wealth, the power, the influence. He was everything she wanted in a man. Deep down, the matron knew that part of Blessing's motivation was jealousy. Seeing her former colleague Jacinta rise to luxury had fueled this hunger in her. She wanted to shine, to have the life she felt she deserved. The matron leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. She had seen many women like Blessing before, women whose only goal was to arrive, no matter how they got there. In a country where wealth erased sins and failure meant instant obscurity, morality was optional. She sighed, her eyes drifting toward the window. Out there, life carried on in its usual chaotic rhythm. Somewhere in that mess, another person was scheming their way to the top, and nobody cared who they trampled along the way. It was the system. People worshipped money, not integrity. Blessing wasn't stupid. The matron understood that much. She had simply mastered the rules of a game that had long been played in their society. She had found her investment, Chief Mboli, a man of power, influence, and means. He was married, of course. That didn't matter. He was hers now. A wild bear tamed into a cuddly pet who did whatever she wanted. She owned him in ways his wife never could. The matron sighed, shaking her head. Even in her own home, this was happening. Her husband was already preparing to marry another woman, a younger one, hungry for a life of comfort. It was the way things were now. Women no longer wanted to build with men. They just wanted to be placed in a finished house with the key handed to them. The matron opened a bottle of Coke and poured herself a glass. The cold fizz did little to calm her rising frustration. Her eyes lingered on the untouched paperwork before her. She was too tired, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Everywhere she looked, people were rushing to arrive. No patience, no process, just shortcuts. A girl like Blessing could walk into a room and command respect simply because of who she slept with. A thief could be praised for his success because he now threw lavish parties. A murderer could be excused if he was wealthy enough to feed an entire village. She wanted to scream, to shake sense into society. But what was the point? The world had changed, and she was just an aging bystander watching it all unfold. The air in the health center was thick with hushed murmurs, and the weight of unspoken truths pressed heavily on the walls. Billy, a nurse with a grudge and a mission, seized the moment. She had watched Blessing parade around like royalty for too long, and now the time had come. Seb sat in his office, barely noticing the paperwork on his desk. When Billy knocked, he barely looked up. "Sir, I know they gossip like other nurses, but I get something where I won't make you know. It good make you know." Seb finally met her gaze, sensing something serious behind the hesitation in her voice. "Oga, no be small thing. Everybody for this health center, no?" She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. Her lips curved into a smile, not of joy, but of a calculated satisfaction. Seb listened, his fingers unconsciously gripping the armrest of his chair. Each word Billy spoke felt like a hammer striking his chest. "Sir, Blessing Donde sleep with Chief Mboli?" Now behind your back, everybody know. Now you know. He pain me for you, Olga. You be good man. She done make fool of you. The room felt smaller, suffocating. Seb struggled to keep his breathing steady, his expression neutral. Anger surged through him, but he swallowed it. He had long suspected Blessing's hunger for power. But this? He nodded slowly, trying to process the betrayal. "Thank you for telling me," he said, his voice controlled, though inside he felt like an explosion waiting to happen. But a small voice in his mind wondered, was this the truth? Or was this just another battle in the endless war of gossip and jealousy among the nurses? Seb sat rigidly behind his desk, the weight of betrayal pressing down on his chest like a heavy stone. His fingers tapped rhythmically against the wooden surface as he fought to keep his anger contained. The rumors had reached him like an avalanche, unstoppable and suffocating. He had to hear the truth from someone he trusted. With a controlled but urgent voice, he summoned Mrs. Akobundu, the matron. As she entered, he barely looked up, his voice low, almost a whisper. What is going on? There are some very hurtful stories being peddled about Blessing. Seb's gaze locked onto the matron's face, searching for any sign of denial, of reassurance. But deep down, he already knew the answer. Seb's heart pounded in his chest as he finally asked the question that had been clawing at him. Is it true? Is Blessing sleeping with the chief? The matron hesitated for a brief moment, her eyes filled with something close to pity. Then she gave a slow, measured nod. Seb's breath hitched. The confirmation sent a fresh wave of fury through him. His hands clenched into fists. Why did you not tell me? His voice trembled, but whether from anger or hurt, even he wasn't sure. This is not fair. Really bad. Why did I have to hear this from other nurses when you knew? Mrs. Akobundu, this is unlike you. The matron sighed deeply, shaking her head. Please, doctor, let me explain. You know I don't believe in hearsay. When I tell my own tales, I mention the name of the person who told me. That nurse Billy told me, and I ignored her. But yesterday, Blessing told me herself. Seb's expression darkened further. Because she wanted permission to be off for 2 weeks, she continued, that she was traveling. And now you know, to London. She confirmed it. Moreover, this was a delicate matter. The silence that followed was suffocating. Outside the window, a crow called from a nearby tree, as if mocking him. Seb sat motionless, his thoughts spinning. His life, his sacrifices, the people he had cared for, it all felt meaningless now. He forced a smile, but it barely touched his eyes. He had always prided himself on being composed, on handling things with grace, the Oyinbo way. No dramatics, no confrontation. Keep your head down. Be professional. Push forward. But was it working? Such is life, he thought bitterly. But deep inside, he wasn't sure how much longer he could tolerate it.